Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Trade Stock. I'm here with Tiffany Peters of North by Northwest out of Austin, Texas. Tiffany, welcome to the podcast today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm excited to dive in. We've got similar backgrounds. We both work in family companies. We work with family, has its pros and cons. We're
Uh-huh.
big on technology and what's going on in the future. We're both in the disruptors group. And yeah, I'm just excited to dive in. So why don't we start there? Why don't we start a little bit with your background? What do you do at North by Northwest? What is the company? And tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
So North by Northwest was started by my parents back in 2003. So at the time I was still in middle school, so I didn't right off the bat work for him or anything. After high school, went to college with the intention that I would go work for my dad, but actually when I was in the thick of it, I was like, actually, I just don't know if this is for me because I could see, the working with family, the
Yeah.
blend of life and work would be very, very blended. And I was just like, I don't know if I want to do this. So I told my dad I didn't want to work for him and try to do my own thing. Um, Kind of after college, I moved to Houston for a little bit. That definitely did not work out. And I came home and stayed and lived with my parents. I had my firstborn son at the time. And so that's really how I got started into working in the business. They really needed someone in the office because at the time it was just my dad and my brothers were working for him, but they were out in the crew. So they literally had no like office structure or anything like that.
How big is a company at this point in terms of like total
So
employee count?
employee count, man, I would say we were probably like around 20 and the
Hmm.
revenue was around 1 million.
Yeah.
So it was a pretty good mom and pop shop. Um, and we were just doing residential mowing with a little bit of some irrigation installs and maybe some small enhancements. So that's just really what they were operating at the time. And so then once I kind of got on board, we were kind of able to streamline the office end of things. And so then my oldest brother, Jordan, he came into the office first and he started doing more sales and more like design. And so we got into the, design build world as well pretty heavily. So, I mean, that's really kind of like my background is really the office stuff. And so, I kind of started out as being the only person in the office. And then as time went on, I've hired on more help and, we've expanded more divisions and things like that. But now my title is actually president. So I've gone
Yeah.
really from the very bottom all the way to the top. So.
So when did you kind of decide that you wanted to actually make that switch from maybe just helping out in the office, probably doing some bookkeeping and whatnot, to becoming the president? Was there a moment in time where you said, "Hey, I'm gonna make this my career," or was it a slow progression into that?
No, I don't think so. I kind of joke about it because like once I was in, I knew that like I wouldn't be able to get out.
Yeah.
So like it's like almost like a gang mentality.
Funny enough, I know what you mean.
Yeah, because it's like if you go in there and you spend the time, getting out of it it's gonna hurt some feelings. It's gonna just cause a lot of waves, and so I always knew that like once I kind of got into it, like that was it. Um, but as far as like taking on more ownership and more responsibility, that's kind of always been my thing. Like I don't want I especially don't really want someone telling me what to do all the time.
Yeah.
And not only that, sometimes people don't know what to do. So a lot of it was kind of like creating my own processes and making it stick. Or, obviously collaborating with my brothers or the other team members and things like that. So it kind of naturally became a leader in that world. But then officially, my title changed to president actually at the beginning of this year. As my dad kind of steps out of the picture, obviously there's three of us And so someone needs to lead the charge. Um, I think that most people will kind of think like, oh, it's going to be the oldest sibling, right? And I'm actually the youngest.
Oh,
And
really?
so,
Okay. Flip the script. I like it.
yeah, exactly. So, flip the script on that. And, but, when it happened and we announced it, a lot of people were like, yeah, that makes total sense. Like, you've already been doing that, Tiffany. There's really not much of a change. Like, congratulations type of situation.
Nice.
So
That had to feel
that was
good,
good.
just getting that reassurance from the team.
Right. I mean,
How
it's
much?
scary.
Yeah.
I definitely, it doesn't feel like a lot has changed, especially like my duties, if you will, because I'm still doing all the same things. But except now, when the final decision needs to be made, that's on my shoulders, right?
Yeah, that's kind of my question is like, how much has changed in the last 7 months since getting that title? Do you feel like you have more responsibility, or do you feel like obviously you do, but do you feel the weight of that title versus maybe a year ago last summer?
Oh yeah, definitely. Um, I feel like just a lot of responsibility. And that's weird to say because it's not like I didn't before. I think it's just really like it's going to, I don't know, have more impact now, right? It's not going to be like, oh, oops, I made the wrong decision. My bad, guys. It's like, no, like that's, people are looking up to me now to make these decisions and make, the right changes. And to lead the whole team because we have about 80 employees now. So it's not even, we're not talking about just 20 people. We're talking about like 80 people and their families and their kids. And so what's really kind of changed on that aspect is delegating,
Yeah.
and having to let go of some things that have just been I've been keeping to myself, and making sure that people are in the right seat and the right bus,
Yeah.
which
That's a
is
hard one, right?
challenging. Yes.
What's like, do you have a process to help identify who is a good fit for a good role, or is there a gut feeling that you have, or how do you decide when someone needs to maybe get moved into a different department or moved into a different role? How do you identify that within the company? I mean, that's a lot of people to keep track of. Or do you delegate some
It
of those
is.
decisions?
One thing is that person willing to step up? I definitely have some people who have reached out and are like, hey, I want more, right? So
Yeah.
those are somewhat easy because they're ready for the challenge, right? They're, instead of me telling them, they're asking me. So those are always great. It's really the other ones where they're kind of not sure what path to take. They could take multiple paths and, what is going to be best for you as an employee, but also what the company needs at that time. So one of the, I guess, biggest changes lately is I took a guy that was a account manager in our maintenance division and made him my irrigation manager. And
Yeah, I got to meet him in Houston.
yes,
Yeah.
and he'll be at Ignite this year too. So
Okay. Nice.
you'll get to meet, a lot of my main managers. And so I remember having a discussion with my Ewing rep, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to be promoting William to irrigation manager. And he was like, okay, great, love William. He doesn't know that much about irrigation, right? Like he definitely has some learning curves. And I was like, yeah, for sure. But what I need is a manager, someone that's ready to step up to the plate and is willing to learn, the processes of the irrigation world, but also the processes that North by wants to accomplish. And so with him, it was relatively easy because he was ready and willing to step up to the plate. And it was really a no-brainer.
So I want to kind of ask you on that because it's interesting. It sounds like there is some people who really know the job, know the role, they know irrigation to a T. but maybe they're not super hungry, or they're not that leadership. They don't want that leadership. They don't want that responsibility. Then you
Right.
have someone like your irrigation manager. What's his name?
William.
All right, shout out to William. You have William, who's hungry, who wants to get into that position, but maybe doesn't have that 25 years of experience of doing irrigation. So what would you, in an ideal world, like if you had to pick from someone with all this experience for someone who's super hungry, who would you take?
Oof. You know, honestly, I lean more towards someone who doesn't have the 25 years of experience.
Yeah.
Mainly because, they have their habits, they have their ways. And yes, you have all of this knowledge, but what I need is really like the hunger to learn more. And that is moldable to how I want things to go, or how the company needs things to go. I have found that if you hire someone with just like a plethora of knowledge, they want to do things their way, there's a time and a place for that. I'm not saying that that's not what I want, because, I know that probably in a year from now, I probably will need to hire someone that has the 25 years of experience. But for this position, since technically this was a new manager position, I wanted to, someone moldable, and that was willing to kind of, try new methods. Maybe this method won't work, so let's shift gears and let's try this way. And so I think that it's a little bit easier with someone who is kind of new to that aspect of it. It just seems to be a little bit more, I don't want to say easier, because nothing's easy.
Yeah, it's never easy.
Yeah. I think they're able to grasp it better, right? Because you have more open-mindedness, because you don't know. You don't have that experience, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think hunger is such a key indication of a personality trait that equates to success in business, especially an industry like ours, which is what I would say, a very old school industry, but it's changing faster than it ever has.
I agree with that.
Yeah, if you're hungry, you're going to be able to keep up with that change. And if you're not, I think you're going to struggle with where the industry is going and all the changes, especially in irrigation. There's so much new software and opportunities coming about.
Yeah,
So,
new regulations, new laws, all of, and water is a scarce source, and we need to protect it. And so, yeah, irrigation especially is going to be you got to keep with the trends for sure.
Yeah, and we're out in California and we have the water issue, but Texas, you guys, even with rain and everything you've gotten, you guys still have some pretty stringent irrigation requirements as far as licensing and what you can do and watering. How big of an impact has that had on your business, just all those state regulations?
I wouldn't say it's as strict as California. Definitely not. But, it has its challenges, especially, there's certain jurisdictions where you can only water once every 15 days or something like that. Yeah, it's wild. Or, or there's certain ones from a certain time period from like May to September, they will not give variances out for new landscaping. You can water 1 to 2 days a week, but that, as anything new, you're going to have to, you have to dump a ton of water on it. So these builders or even some construction projects, they don't install their landscapes for 4 months out of the year.
Wow.
So on my construction end of the world, it slows down. And that sucks. We can still install irrigation, but they're not installing landscape. So come September, I'm going to be really busy with landscaping.
Wow. Where's your guys' business today as far as construction versus maintenance?
We're about 60-40. So 60% construction, 40% maintenance. We're really pushing this year in particular over the next probably 2 years is trying to get more in the 50-50. We're really pushing our maintenance division to grow. That's where all the M&A and private equity, that's all that they want. Not that we want to sell, but we want to build our company to the point where, people are being like, hey, you looking this out? I mean, we get it all the time still to this day, but still.
Yeah, I always say it's better to build a business that everyone wants to buy and you don't want to sell.
Exactly.
That's the perfect.
Yep.
Okay.
That's prime time.
That's prime time. So we're both in family businesses and we both know the challenges of that. I want to talk about that a little bit. What, working within a family business, what would be your advice for other people that are in family businesses who want to grow the business and be more of the president level role? How have you gone about that with your family, and what's your advice for others who want to follow in that similar path?
I would always recommend for people, and this kind of applies to all aspects of life, but creating boundaries. Boundaries are important for you, but also for your family members, because you want to protect yourself and your family if you care about them, which I hope you do. So setting boundaries from the very beginning, right? Because if you try to set boundaries like after the fact, those are really difficult and people get their feelings hurt. And it's hard to kind of back out of that, right?
Yeah.
So I definitely recommend boundaries from the beginning. And even, little things, right? Like, hey, I don't check my emails after 6 p.m. Whatever.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and I don't have I'm one of those freaks of nature where I cannot stand if I have notifications on my phone. And so for my email, I have my work email on my phone, but I don't have it to where it shows my notifications. So that way I'm not pressed to look at my emails, right? When I'm at home, I got to make sure that I turn off work at some point and focus on my personal life. So that's going to be very important, I think, for really anyone, whether you're an owner operator or even working in a family business as an employee, making sure that you do turn it off at some point, is very important. And to answer your other question, what was the other question?
First off, I totally agree with that. But what would be your advice for someone who let's say they're in more of that office manager role? And honestly, I think I would love to get your advice on, especially the female side of the industry, because my cousin, my sister are co-owners in the business with me and my dad. And we talk a lot about that. And there's a lot of other, women in the industry who I think have that office manager quote unquote role, but really they are almost acting as the president of their family business. And I think sometimes they aren't confident or don't feel like they can step into that leadership role and take over for their parents or take over specifically for their dad. So if there's someone listening out there, or maybe someone sends this to someone that they know who is an office manager in a family business, they want to take over for their parents, what would be your advice to someone in that position?
My advice is to stick your nose into everything. And really know all aspects of the business, right? I think people underrate how important it is on the back of house operations, right? All the office stuff and the administrative stuff. And that's how I got intimate into knowing all aspects of the business, right? Because I know the financials, I know the scheduling of things, and I have an understanding of the landscaping world, right? But all of that didn't happen by just typing away at my desk. It was because I was asking questions or making myself available to go out into the field to answer my own questions. So you really do have to put yourself out there, and it's definitely uncomfortable because most of the time when I go places, I'm surrounded by men. I grew up with 2 older brothers, so it's not weird to me. I can hang out with the dudes all day long. But there's definitely times where it's intimidating, especially when it's a bunch of older men that have been in the industry for forever. And here I am, I'm 35. I look a lot younger because I'm Asian, but here I am and like, oh, this little girl, but I'm like, well, I may look like a little girl, but I probably know a lot more than you think I do. Not that I know everything, and so really displaying that confidence is going to be,
Yeah.
very important. Fake it till you make it.
Yeah. Be confident.
Yeah.
Well, but I hear that same like hunger coming out, like that ability to get out. How important is it to get out into the field and just visit the job sites and see what's going on and gain that level of respect and being confident to do that? I think a lot of people in the office are just don't feel comfortable going out on the job site. How'd you make that leap?
Oof. I
Was it
mean,
encouraged
really, I just
by your dad?
do it.
Did
No,
your dad?
not.
Yeah.
He didn't really encourage me. It kind of just what happened is I started helping with landscape design.
Okay.
My brother Jordan, he had got so over bombarded with doing landscape designs and putting the estimates together and all of that stuff, to where it started with, hey, let me just go with you to this design appointment so I can hear firsthand from the customer, or maybe ask some questions myself, because not to hate on men, but you guys don't get the details that you need. And so he would come into the office and I'd be like, hey, what about XYZ, this, that? And he's like, I don't know. I can't remember. And so really that's kind of how it happened is, I started not being able to get the answers that I needed in order to fulfill my portion of the project. So I was like, you know what, just screw it. I'm just going to go out there myself. And so in the beginning, it was a lot of me and him together, and people loved it, right? They're like, oh my God, brother and sister, this is amazing. I love it. So people definitely love that aspect. I definitely have gotten a lot of, oh, you're his wife or whatever. And I'm like, nope, I'm the sister. And so it started with me going on several appointments with him until I kind of got more confident, and I felt like I was able to answer questions without hesitating. And then I kind of just went on my own and started doing it by myself. So it takes a lot of practice for sure. And having some guidance, obviously, from my brothers, or even my dad too, because my dad would also go to appointments with me. And so I kind of learned from both my dad and my brother on, how to do landscaping, really. And then took it from there.
That's awesome. Well, it sounds like you have a really well-rounded background, and starting in the office, I think I would agree. It's undervalued and underrated of how hard the back office operations are, because it's not just like sales and operations, it's finance and marketing and HR and all the stuff
Customer
that goes
service.
into that. Yeah. Dealing with people who are unhappy.
There's nothing, I was about to say, there's nothing worse than getting a phone call from a customer and they're just, they're frustrated and they're taking their frustration out on you, right? Which is never a good place to be in, but we all have had to deal with that at sometimes. But, you got to be able to take the bad and take it as a learning lesson so that in the future you don't repeat the same stuff. And that's hard, right? Because that can be very humbling, especially if you're the one that messed up, right?
Yeah. And you gotta tell them that, we made a major mistake here and shouldn't have sent you that invoice or whatever.
You gotta own it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think when you own your mistakes like that to clients, though, or customers, they appreciate that versus the defensive nature. And whenever we have a super tough customer, I always tell my team, just give me the phone. Let me handle it. Let me take the heat. Because at the end of the day, as CEO, president, what have you, the leader of the company, the buck stops with us. And ultimately that customer wants to talk to someone with that level title anyway.
For sure. Yeah. They're tired of talking, let me talk to your supervisor or whatever. Yeah. And I've, I definitely have gotten back. I don't get it as much anymore. But I remember back in the day, people would want to be like, oh, let me talk to your manager. And I'm like, oh, well, who is that? Is that my dad? Is it my brother? Like,
Yeah.
but really, I mean, it was just there's no one really above me per se. Obviously, my dad, because he's the owner. But yeah, the buck stops with you.
Yeah. And I think in a family business, that's kind of sometimes that gray area, the stickiness is like who's in charge of who, especially with siblings. And then the dad starts to step out. And so how's it going for you guys? I mean, you're the president, you've got the title, you're in charge. How is it now, I guess, quote unquote, being the boss of your brothers? How's that?
I mean, really, you might want to ask them. I don't want to speak for for them, but it is definitely a challenge. One more so than the other. I think it is a little bit of a struggle with my oldest brother, just because a lot of his stuff is changing. But I think it's very important, especially because there's three of us, and we're all kind of very similar, as in like being pretty strong-minded and opinionated, that you have your own lanes, and that your lanes are very described and detailed. Now, you do have to go into several lanes sometimes, and that's where, when someone tells me I need to stay in my lane, I'm like, I hear you, but honestly, all of the lanes are mine.
Yeah.
And
yeah, they kind of have to be.
Yeah, right. Someone has to be able to make the final decision. And sometimes that final decision is not something that I want to make, but I have to, because someone has to.
Yeah.
And so, I would just recommend, make sure you have your lanes clearly defined and collaborating together, so that it feels like you do have a say-so still. Because no one appreciates being told what to do without having any sort of input. We created this company together, so it's, in my mind, this only works if we're all in it together. And so we've had multiple conversations about that, making sure that we're all on the same page. If a decision needs to be made, let's all get our input and collaborate on it, and go from there. Just making sure that they have a say-so and an imprint is really important to them, and it's important to me too, because I need them.
Yeah, you need their buy-in, and I think that's well said. It needs to have clarity of who's in charge of what, or what's your role. I think in a family business, you need even more clarity, and you need to also be able to give like really honest feedback to family. And sometimes we avoid conflict because we don't want to deal with it.
Maybe sometimes,
or that too. Mm-hmm. I mean, me and my brother used to just argue to argue. Like, it wasn't a matter of what my opinion was or his opinion was. It was like almost we were automatically against each other, and then just because it wasn't the other person's idea. So that took some growing up to do, to figure out how do you work with family and appreciate everybody's idea.
Yeah, and I agree with you, because there's definitely times. I mean, we still argue to this day, right? But you've got to be able to have your argument, have your disagreements or differences of opinion, but you've got to be able to still move on, right? You can't let it linger. Even if you sweep it under the rug for that time being, that's fine, but it'll eventually come back out again, and you're going to have to deal with it at some point. And so, the differences of opinion does happen, but, I think that's where kind of the give and take might come into play, right? Because my idea might not be the best idea, but I just want you to hear me out. Like, hey, have we thought about this? Have we thought about that? Being devil's advocate for the group.
Yeah. Yeah. You kind of have to play that devil's advocate role and make sure that whatever decision you're making isn't going to kill the company, especially when you're making big changes.
Yes, big change. Right. And that's when this year is really like the method of big changes. And I know I'm making waves, and I know change is uncomfortable for every human being. And so I'm really trying to, I'm going to say convince everybody that change is not bad. Change is good, because if we're not changing, then we're just okay with mediocre. And
Yeah.
I'm not okay with that. Like, I want to grow this company. And in order to grow this company, I need a good team. So, like you said earlier, I need their buy-in, my siblings, but I also need my team and my employees buy-in, because this isn't a one-man show or one-woman show, whichever way
Yeah.
you want to spin it.
Yeah, you do need that buy-in. And so I agree. Change is huge. I think the world is changing around us.
Uh-huh.
So by not changing, our relationship with our surroundings and our community and our clients will change no matter what.
Right. It'll
Because
change in front of you, and you'll be
yeah,
left
that
behind.
you'll be left behind. Their expectations of what a company should be changes every year. And
Uh-huh.
I think our clients want to see a more seamless relationship, better technology, better interface with our teams. They want to
Uh-huh.
see our, professionalism and obviously following regulations around water or
Oh, yeah.
herbicides or whatever it is. So, what are some of those big changes that you've identified that are key for 2025 that you guys are trying to do? Is it technology changes? Are you organizational, organization chart changes where you're promoting people and creating roles? What are few, maybe give us a few examples if you don't mind sharing.
Well, so from the very beginning, the first part of the year was the organizational change, which is between my brothers and myself, right? Um, and so that was the biggest shift, right? Because it kind of starts from the top and it kind of goes out from there. Um, but really, what was working in 2023, 2024, we need to shift, because unfortunately in 2024 was the first year that we didn't have growth. All the previous years that we've had, we grew naturally, kind of without trying, if you will.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like we have, direct mailers out there or this huge Google ad, things like that. And so, with the trends of just the economy and life, we need to do something different. And so it's hard, because something needs to change, but I just don't want to. Everybody's change capacity hits a certain point, right?
Yeah.
And so, and I've hired different consultants and different like coaches. And so right now, last year we had one consulting company, but they weren't landscape specific. And so while they set up a lot of good processes and, different reporting systems and things like that, like those were really good to have. But then we were finding ourselves like, but we don't really understand, like, okay, what are our competitors doing? Is our pricing in line with the market? And so I ended up finding, actually, kind of through Ignite. When I went to Ignite, I talked to this bookkeeper, ended up coming across this other coaching company called Growth Bridge. And so I made the decision this year to invest into this other coaching company. And so we started that in May. So we're 2 to 3 months in now, and we're all feeling it, right?
Yeah.
And it causes some frustrations, right? Because things are changing that we're not used to. And I was just having a conversation with my oldest brother, because his role changed in Aspire. So certain things that he can't do anymore,
Yeah.
like he can't change the templates, he can't change like the markups and things like that. And he's like, like I'm not used to this. I can't even like do my normal stuff. And I kind of had to like talk him off the ledge, like, hey, I hear you, like, this is weird, but we're all doing things that we weren't doing 6 months ago.
Yeah.
So we just need to take it day by day. It's frustrating. I get it. And, we're all learning new things, but I promise you it's there for a reason, and you're going to see it in a month, 2 months from now, whatever, and you're going to, look back and be like, okay, Tiffany wasn't as crazy as I thought she was.
Yeah.
At least I hope so.
Yeah, that's leadership though, is when everyone else is feeling just not great about something, you're able to come in and provide that calm leadership. It's going to be okay. We're going to, even if you may have questions and concerns about what you're doing at the same time.
Oh yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things. I know like the change is coming. I might not know like the full process right now, but I know that like, hey, we're going to be working on this for now. I'm working on this is the next phase coming up. And so there's a lot of like unknowns right now. And so what I've really learned within like the last probably 2 months, I would say, is really to be open and provide the why behind things and the clarity. What it keeps getting repeated to me is clear is kind. And hey, like, it's okay for me to admit that I don't fully know this process yet, and that's okay. And explaining that to my team so that they don't think that I'm just like leaving them to hang to figure it out themselves, right? And just really kind of letting them know, what the mindset is of doing it this way, and just providing clarity to people, because I think that a lot of people think that we know everything, but we don't, and that's okay.
Yeah, being vulnerable a little bit and letting them know that, hey, we're working on this. I'm going through this with you together. We're all feeling it, and we all like. Yeah, I think even if you don't know the exact next steps, it's just giving them that confidence that you're in it with them. I think is such a key part of that, and not feeling like, hey, I have it all figured out. Why aren't you catching up? It's like, hey, I'm kind of with you guys right now too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm a firm believer in it. I'm not going to ask you to do something that I would never do myself. Now, am I going to go out there and hop on a mower? No.
Yeah.
But everything else, as it comes to, leadership and management and all of those things, like, yes, like I'm going to be there with you. And if you don't get it, but I do, hey, let me help you. Or even vice versa. Like, we can help each other. And I think that's very important for the team to know that you have their back and really you empathize with them, because there's nothing worse than someone just being like, I want it done this way. I want this end result, but I don't really know the in-betweens. Just, figure it out yourself.
Yeah.
Because that definitely happens in this world, and that's frustrating as an employee, because I've been there where, my dad did tell me, just figure it out.
Yeah.
Go get that permit, Tiffany. What? How do you, what? Who? Where?
Do you feel like that's a little bit of that old school mindset that hopefully has changed? Well, I don't know if it's changing, but I do think that bigger companies still have that. But like, the newer way of doing things is, hey, let's help our team be more successful faster. Instead of it taking 6 months to figure out a permit process that we could train in 6 minutes. So, I mean, what's your take on this whole like new school versus old school way of operating a business?
That's interesting, because I know we're definitely in that time where a lot of the older generation, or like the older owners, if you will, are exiting, right? And so a lot of the leaders in this industry are like our age, right? Or taking over from their parents or what have you. And so it's not that the old school way is wrong, because obviously this company wouldn't be here if my dad didn't do his ways. But I think the biggest difference is, I would say, well, technology, of course, right? Because if you don't use it, then, like we said earlier, you're going to be left behind. And there's so many different options out there, and I think that kind of is hard to make a decision, especially like, systems like Aspire. Like that's a big task and a big expense to take on, that I think that when I first came on board back in 2014, my dad would have been like, no way, absolutely not. Are we going to spend that much money on a program? We can just do it on paper.
Yeah. We don't need software to tell us what our profit is or anything.
Exactly. Or here's the formula to figure out your overhead or your job
pricing,
costing, and all of that stuff. So I think that's the biggest change from old school to new school is embracing the trends and working with it instead of against it.
Yeah, that's a huge opportunity, I would say, for all the businesses out there. Is, you put it perfectly, Tiffany, is like working with it instead of against it. I mean, they're trends for a reason. People are utilizing software and technology to make their business better. People are investing in water management and irrigation teams to make their clients happier. People are rolling out robotic mowers and electric equipment because it is better for their crews. And so I think as these trends pick up speed, technology gets better, equipment gets more efficient, we're going to see people who embraced it early are going to be rewarded, while the others are going to always try to play catch up. And what I say is, I think right now we have an opportunity. I think we talked about this a little bit in Houston, but it's like we have the opportunity to write the rules for the people who come behind us. So like if you're the leader in a space and you're embracing technology and you're the obvious, disruptor, if you will, then you can write the rules that everyone else has to kind of play by. And that gives us a massive advantage in the industry of tomorrow.
Exactly. And I think that especially like, going back to irrigation and the controllers, being able to operate controllers without physically being there is game changer. Like, and there's even still more technology that's coming out that's just making it even better and better. And, just 3 years ago, we were like, there's no way. How are you going to be able to have a system or some sort of controller that is going to be able to operate a traditional system versus a 2-wire system? Like, no, that's never going to happen. Or maybe in 20 years. But no, it's like, it's coming out this year, guys.
Yeah.
And, it's just, there's just so much going on. And really as a leader too, you got to make sure that when you are going to be implementing like a new technology or any sort of new system, you have to be careful, because you don't want to just get everything and then figure out later on that, oh, actually this doesn't work, that doesn't work, because then you're implementing too many new things at the same time, and your team will just be like, dude, pick one.
Yeah, that's a good warning. I've definitely been in that bucket of trying to do too much too fast at the same time.
But it's also like, I mean, I've looked at numerous different programs and softwares and stuff like that. And, I would go and I would enter everything in and implement it and be like, okay, cool. Now I just need to try it out in the field. But then it's like, okay, who's the best guinea pig?
Yeah. Because you want to give it to someone who's going to actually be successful with it. But that is going to actually buy in on the opportunity too. That's always hard to find that person.
Unfortunately, I have lost some, what I would say, good potential employees because of these changes that we're making, right? They didn't fully buy into the program. And especially, again, with Aspire, as much of an investment that it is, that's a non-negotiable. Everyone is going to be running on Aspire. And if you're not going to drink the Kool-Aid, then we need to find you a different bus to sit on, because this is what we're going with. And I invested into this as a company, and, it's a non-negotiable. And I did lose, some high-level management, but there's a reason for everything. And that means that I was then able to open up the opportunity for someone else to come in and, really take it and grow with it, right? Rather than having to beat a dead horse, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. Just work. Yeah. Constantly fighting your team. What would you say to someone out there so according to some reports, 95% of landscape businesses are still not on a software like Aspire or Element or something. I know it's crazy.
95?
Yeah. Now there's a lot of businesses out there that are smaller, right? 200, 300,000 in annual revenue. So, all right, whatever. But for those people out there listening and I'm surprised if there's someone listening who's not on a software, if you're listening to my podcast, because I talk about it constantly. But if there is, what would your advice be for someone who's thinking about going and going from pen and paper and spreadsheets to something like Aspire and making that leap? What would be your recommendation for them? Is it worth it?
Yes, it's 1,000% worth it. Really, kind of like we said, you're going to be left behind. And I hear the method of, if it's not broken, why fix it? Because, old school pen and paper, or even just Excel, because we use that heavily a lot too, is it's not that it's not wrong, but it is slowing you down hardcore. And what are you missing? Because I guarantee you're missing billing opportunities. I guarantee you're probably overpaying someone or overpaying a vendor, or and you don't have the data readily available like you would with a program or any sort of software. And so you need to be all in, not one foot in and one foot out, or dip your toe in. No, you have to really, you're marrying this program. And if you want to get out of it, it's going to be a difficult divorce.
You got to go all in.
You have to go all in. You can't be half-assed. You just can't. Because it's not going to work. It's going to be expensive. You're going to be frustrated. Your team is going to be frustrated, and ultimately it will fail. So you as a leader, you have to be drinking the Kool-Aid just as much as you want your employees to drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, that's great advice. I completely agree. If you're going to do it, you got to go all in. And I talk to people who are like, it didn't work for me, and I tried whatever program, and I just didn't get the results I wanted. And I think after asking a few questions, it was obvious that they didn't go all in. And you can't just use the estimating module of the software and not use the job tracking software.
Right.
It's like you've got to use the whole program because it all ties together to give you that job profitability. I think as much as you could be overpaying your vendors too, you could be overcharging your clients. And we've had some clients where we're like, hey, we're doing way too good on this maintenance property. We need to not give them an increase and actually like give them a free enhancement or something. And then we've had others where, oh my gosh, we're losing our ass on this thing. We need to give them a large increase. And we didn't have that data prior to rolling out Aspire. So I think technology is a big part of the future success of a business. And the more we can implement cautiously and you doing it in the smart way, I think the better our businesses will be in the long run.
Yeah, and heavy emphasis on the cautiousness, because I even before we were on Aspire, we were using like a little bit of Element, a little bit of pen and paper, a little bit of Builder Trend for this division and that, and it was honestly just a nightmare, and it was just too much to keep track of. And if that's how your brain is, like, what do you think of how it is out in the field, right? And how are we supposed to be successful if we're all running in a million different directions?
It's not going to work.
No.
Tiffany, this has been such a great conversation, and we end every podcast with the trade secret. And we've shared so much already on the podcast, but I'd love to get something from you, something you can't learn in a book, something you learn from experience. What's a trade secret you'd like to share with our guests?
Gosh, I know I wrote it down. I don't remember what I wrote.
Even better. Off the top of your head, we get a raw, real answer.
Oh man, my trade secret would be to just continue to ask questions.
Love
And
that.
if you're still not getting it, because that happens to me a lot of the time where I'll be asking questions and they explain it to me, but I'm still just not 100% picking it up. I'll ask the question, but maybe like just a little bit differently, until I can feel confident in answering that for someone else. And so just making sure you're asking questions and, asking questions to your vendors, asking questions to your customers, asking questions to your colleagues, or even in the disruptors group. I mean, I've
Yeah.
asked a million questions in there and I've gotten a ton of great feedback. And so, don't be afraid to ask questions. That doesn't mean that you're dumb or you don't have, that you're less qualified. It really just means that you care, right? And you want to figure it out. So that would be my trade secret, is just keep asking questions.
I love that. Stay curious. I think that's
Yes, stay curious.
such a great thing to do in today's world, because there's so much out there, and sometimes we get comfortable in our little bubbles and we're just like, yeah, we're just gonna put our heads down. And well, thank you for today. Thank you for all your contributions to the disruptors too. You're often the disruptor of the week, and you're crushing it on there. So thank you so much for everything you do in that group. All right,
Appreciate
Tiffany.
it.
Well, it was great having you on. I appreciate you, and I'm excited to watch your ride as you continue to take on this role of president and take North by Northwest to the next level.
Thank you.
All right, see ya.
Thanks for tuning in to Trades Talk, where the next generation of disruptors comes to raise the bar. If you got value from today's episode, share it with someone in the trades who's ready to level up. For more tools, insights, and community, follow host Justin White and join the movement at jwhitegroup.com.